Hello and welcome to Divinatory Tarot. My name is Ewan and today we are carrying on with the court cards of the Wands suit. Now if you've not gone and seen the whole playlist of the Wands suit cards, I do highly recommend you go back and watch those. They'll give greater context to the court cards. And also please do go back and look at the Knight of Wands and the Queen of Wands, as they will give further context to the Prince of Wands, and I've done a small video going over the court cards in general, which explains why each card has an elemental attribution and why they have a personality. So without further ado, I'm going to get started with the Prince of Wands, but if you want to go straight to the Divinatory Interpretations, there is a timestamp down in the description, but a lot of what's there won't make sense unless you listen to the description and the symbolism at least once. So here we have a blazing young man sitting naked upon his crimson chariot. A lion pulls the vehicle forward with the slack reins in the prince's left hand. That's on our right. A wand of the Mage Adept is held in his right hand, which we saw in the Five of Wands, and we see this glorious 11-pointed halo around his head or crown, and his calm features staring out from the halo. A winged lioness can just be seen here. The wings here, and there's the lioness there. And these top the card and give structure to the rays of energy blasting out from him. Meanwhile, we see the sigil of the beast, Crowley's personal sigil, tattooed on the prince's chest, whilst he leans over these flames, which are almost gas-like. Their blue quality at the bottom there. So the Prince of Wands is the heir of fire, and rules the last third of Cancer and the first 2/3 of Leo on the Decan Wheel, and as I've said previously, the Decan Wheel is essentially the zodiac year. He represents the embodiment of creative force as it is, that being the breath of life that is exhilarating, stimulating, and warm. The prince is both the rush of his father and the flow of his mother, so do go back and look at the Knight and Queen of Wands to understand that. And he can be seen as the pyroclastic surge bursting from a volcano. So if his mother was the volcano, this is very much that deadly pyroclastic surge that comes before the mountain explodes. Like all princes, he is naked and he rides a chariot. So when we go through all the princes of the other suits, you'll see this is a common motif. So the nakedness symbolises freedom and courage, whilst the chariot represents the movement of the Queen's throne. In other words, this is energy surging through creation and is also a metaphor for the mind in many cultures. I think the most prominent example of this being the Bhagavad Gita, where the chariot which Krishna and Arjuna rides is very much a symbol of the mind raging through the battle of life. This symbol is also linked to Helios, the sun god of ancient Greece, who resembles the Prince of Wands more than any other prince. He is the shining one, he that walks on high, the keeper of oaths. And in Plato's Republic, he described Helios as the symbolic offspring of goodness. The pointed halo is another symbol of Helios, and not only emphasises the god's traits in the prince, but also his character through the numerology of 11, which is the number of rays coming from that halo-like crown around his head. So 11 is a master number, and is associated with intuition, wisdom, and spirituality. However, it is also associated with instability, and these are all traits that we can attribute to our prince here. Now if we look at the prince's posture, he's sitting in this yogic position, the Thunderbolt Asana, and this was Aleister Crowley's favourite yogic position. It forms the alchemical symbol of sulphur, the divine masculine, and is overseen by the winged lioness of the Queen. So this is the Queen of Wands above. And this is the instinctual divine feminine. Thus, the prince is a personality where the masculine and the feminine meet, and is the sigil of the beast upon his chest is a representation of that union. And when we come to look at the Emperor card in the Major Arcana, we shall see that he is also got this position that's much like the symbol for sulphur, and it also is reminiscent of the legs of the Hanged Man. So already we can see that Aleister Crowley identified closely with the Prince of Wands, and this is because his rising sign was that of Leo, and the Prince is predominantly Leo in energy. And this is very much represented by this lion pulling his chariot, a very overt symbol there. And he placed his mark on the Prince as a sign to basically say, "This is me." We also saw this sigil on the Five of Wands, and this expresses the Prince's unstable side. And when it is combined with his other nature, harmony, that being the Six of Wands or the Sun, again that Helios imagery, we again reach the number 11. So nice little thing there that I didn't actually know until I read up about this card. In Thelema, which is Aleister Crowley's own esoteric kind of, I don't know whether you'd call it a religion, maybe philosophy, the sigil of the beast expresses the union of masculine and feminine through the deities of Therion and Babylon, and they really are just his own names for those two concepts. And we shall see this union again in the Lust card, Atu 11. And that is part of the Major Arcana, by the way. And for those of you who are not familiar with the Thoth deck, the Lust card is the Strength card in other tarot decks. And this union of Therion and Babylon also represents this prince's androgynous nature. And finally we have the Phoenix-topped wand here of the Major Adept, which we saw in the 5 and the 6 and the 7 of Wands. And this is a symbol of rebirth, a concept embodied by the Sun and the Prince's mercurial nature, whereby he appears to eternally renew himself every single day. So this is a man fueled on serotonin and dopamine, and he doesn't need to take anything to keep it going. So now we're going to have a look at the divinatory interpretations of this card. So we'll go through the Prince's character a little bit, and then we'll go through the literal interpretations, and finally we'll just see what it's like if you ever met a Prince of Wands. So the Prince of Wands is an exaggeration and is also wit personified. He is a prophet, demagogue, and rogue, well versed in rhetoric and satire. It is not necessarily what the prince says that draws others to him, but rather how he says it. When matured, he can combine the content of his words with its delivery, creating a truly intoxicating message of hope, freedom, love, and joy. The Prince of Wands is also carefree and whimsical at times, due to his brave and optimistic countenance, We can see this in the way he displays himself naked upon the chariot, which is his mind, and also how the lion's reins are slack around his wrist, and this signals that he walks that fine line between supreme confidence and foolishness, and this is a motif we shall see returning in the Princess of Wands. As a person, the Prince of Wands is both feminine and masculine in almost equal measure, no matter their gender, and this is expressed by that sigil of the beast on his chest. The fact he is depicted as a male only hints towards the primarily doing nature of the princes and the suit of wands, so as perhaps we could say that he's slightly inclined towards the divine masculine, maybe 51% and 49% divine feminine. The prince is embodied by personalities that are great speakers, leaders, comedians and poets. They are equally brave, just, romantic, humorous, confident and boastful, with a tendency to be loud, proud and lazy. The prince is also a raving practical joker and likely to hurt the feelings of others through his satire. However, there is no malice behind this, but rather a recognition that life is ridiculous, and thus he does not treat himself or others seriously. In divination, the Prince of Wands represents courage and life, as well as laughter and arguing for its own sake. When well dignified, the card can represent confidence, openness, self-development, nobility, enthusiasm, and comedic joy. However, when ill-dignified, the card is argumentative, sarcastic, boastful, proud, lazy, and cruel like his father. If you ever meet a Prince of Wands, you will be hit first by his infectious or repulsive bravado, depending on your own inclination towards such qualities, and followed by an argument or a joke to catch you off guard. And either way, he will certainly be living his best life, even if it means doing so at the expense of others. So there's a lot to the Prince of Wands, and I think that's because Aleister Crowley wanted to put a lot of himself into this character. And I will just tell a little story at the end here, which is very much a Prince of Wands quality that we see expressed in Aleister Crowley. I think before I say the story, just the very figure of Aleister Crowley is an expression of the Prince of Wands, and that is a controversial and multifaceted individual. But the way this story goes is that the famous writer and poet Oscar Wilde, his tomb had a naked man above it, and apparently they were talking about the early 20th century here. People were offended by the male genitalia on the statue, and so it was covered up with I think it was a stone or a concrete leaf. And Aleister Crowley was not amused by this at all, so he thought he'd make amusement out of it. And what he did is he took the leaf off the statue, and then he himself got naked, went into the restaurant of the man who put the leaf there, and presented himself naked with the leaf over his own genitalia. And this is very much the kind of brash and strange sense of humour that the Prince of Wands carries, and very much likes to put people off their guard and make them feel uncomfortable. So that has been the Prince of Wands, and like I say, if you've not gone and looked at the other court cards of the Wands suit, I do highly recommend you go and look at those. Next time we'll be looking at his sister, who is also weirdly his future wife, the Princess of Wands. And if you think that's strange, then do go back and look at the court card video, because you will understand why that is the case. That basically it's weird. So thank you very much for watching today. And if you liked the video, please do hit that like button. It really helps the channel and helps me get the motivation to get more videos out. And maybe even share this video to anyone who's interested in the esoteric or anything to do with the tarot, because these Thoth cards have a lot more symbolism within them than the Rider-Waite deck. And do hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos, and that bell icon so you get notified. Right, thank you very much everyone. I hope you are well wherever you are, and may peace be with you, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.